Welcome to Next Stop, SARTA's podcast where we talk about SARTA and all things related to transit. Today we're going to talk about detours. What happens when the bus can't do what we actually planned it to do? We have Delano Means with us today to give us some insight into that. Please make sure that you follow us on our social media channels at SARTA Online or on our YouTube channel at Ride SARTA. So, Del, you were here with us before. What's your position, just to remind all of our listeners?
I'm the dispatch supervisor.
High level, what does the dispatch do in general?
Dispatch does everything. No, we are responsible for the day-to-day operations for how the buses get out and all the routes get covered.
Yeah. So happy to have you back again.
It's good to be back.
Okay, so we are so happy to have you back on our show.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So can you talk to me a little bit about what happens if the bus would break down?
So generally, if the bus breaks down, the operator would call in the dispatch. They would give us the information about what happened. We would then call maintenance to see what they would want us to do. And if we are unable to get that bus back up and running, we would send a replacement bus.
Okay.
And if it takes, too much time, we'll also try to send a bus down to whatever zone that bus would start at, so it's not running behind, and try to keep everybody on time.
Yeah.
To try to keep the passengers in a loop, we usually try to send the information to customer service to relay that message. However, we do have this software that when we put in detours and different things into what we call a veil, is the system we work out. So what happens when the bus breaks down is the operator will call in the dispatch via radio. They'll give us the information about what happened with the bus. We'll then attempt to call maintenance to see what they want to do, whether they want to remove the bus from the road or if we want to try to get that bus up and running again. In the event that we can't, we send out a replacement bus, and we also try to make sure that route doesn't get behind. So if it takes longer than usual, we'll try to send a bus out to start on time, either at a time port or usually at that main hub for it to be running back on time so the passengers don't really miss a step.
Yeah. Okay.
So breaking down for paratransit, the process would be exactly the same, I guess, is what I'm saying.
For the most part, it's kind of the same. Dealing with paratransit, we try to keep the passengers moving because they have a different kind of time frame because they have appointments and whatnot. So in the event that we have a breakdown, we may send a replacement bus a lot faster just to keep them moving and not let that driver get too far behind.
And I know sometimes I've seen supervisors even kind of helping out if they can.
Yeah, they help out. We try to limit that because we need them for so many other things.
Yeah.
But in the event that we are short of buses, short drivers to do exchanges, whatever the case, they can help out. Especially, I've seen it happen a lot over lately in Wayne County because the distance is so far. It would take us 45 minutes, to an hour to get a bus out there, and that just throw everything off.
I say that the supervisors wear all kinds of hats, though, because they're really out there and really...
Yeah, those road supervisors they're amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Dealing with, they deal with it all,
Yeah.
So one of the things I know is one of the things the road supervisors do, if there's an accident on the road, not with the bus, and don't the road supervisors kind of help to give you guys information on what the detour should be so the bus can actually continue to run even if it can't go the route exactly as it is?
Yeah, so we get calls about accidents all the time, whether it's the driver on the route, whether it's a pro-line driver riding by, maybe even just a pedestrian calling in to let us know, hey, it's an accident on wherever street, your bus may need a detour. So we would try to get out to the bus driver, let them know that, there's a possible for a detour coming up. If we can't get a supervisor out there fast enough, we'll tell them to navigate your way around, let us know what you did so we can communicate that until we get a road supervisor out there to get us a detour that would better suit us not missing as many stops.
So when we do detours like that, I know you guys work with customer service in our department to get it out to the public so they know what's going on. Can you kind of talk about what you guys do to get it out to the public so they know?
So we do a couple different things. Originally, we just used to send it to customer service, and they would kind of send it out via the Facebook or the web and everything. We did upgrade our technology, and now that we have this system, it's called a veil, and that's where the dispatchers will see where all the buses are, and we have the ability to go in and actually change the routes now if we ever have to detour. That way it auto-populates onto the website exactly where they can catch the bus at.
And I know that's really helpful because what we then do in turn with that information is we have a texting feature called SARTA Buzz. So on SARTA Buzz, we'll say, I don't know, the 106 is Detour, refer back to the website. That way they can get all the information. And we do the same thing on social media. So you guys being able to actually change the route and it auto-populates makes it a lot easier for us to be able to just give the correct information on what the detour looks like instead of trying to guess which stops might be missed or changed. So I know that change has been really helpful for us to be able to get more accurate information out to people, especially on the detours that kind of pop up like accidents.
Right.
So my question is it the same kind of procedure for bad weather?
So bad weather is kind of similar. We do have like an inclement weather list where routes do have like set detours that they go to. However, for the inclement weather to take place, it has to come from the CEO. He has to give the nod, which then goes to the COO, and then he'll relay that to either myself or dispatch to start running those routes. But yeah, they pretty much do run the same. They'll run an alternate route where maybe that route usually goes up a hill or down a hill. We wouldn't take that route if it's, covered in snow and ice or whatnot.
So to do the specific inclement weather detours that we have pre-planned, you need that from Kurt.
Yes.
But if you see something out on the road and there's bad weather that makes it unsafe, you still would just make the detour and you wouldn't need it from the CEO.
Right. Yeah, the inclement weather is usually like if the weather's like we had a blizzard, like it was really bad, a lot of snow, heavy ice, something that really is out of our control. We have had times where it's, it did snow during the day where we're already running, but some areas may not be affected as much. So we'll get a supervisor over there. Hey, it's unsafe to be going down this road, or, it's tight, cars that's parked on both sides. They were unable to plow. So we need to stay kind of on the main roads to avoid getting the bus stuck and causing further damage to the company.
So when it's bad weather, you make adjustments based on the weather to make sure it's safe and our vehicles can get through. But if it's a kind of massive bad weather, like a blizzard or an ice storm, then we have pre-planned out routes and how we would change them.
Yeah.
And that comes down from the CEO if we implement that plan.
Correct.
But anything else from a day-to-day regular, you guys would implement based on what you guys are seeing out on the road?
Yeah, because detours change all the time. It could be this way for this hour, and it may change. Maybe they were able to get out and plow or get some salt out to kind of get things back to normal routing, but for the most part, that's how it goes.
So one of the things that I think is really important for our listeners to know and think about, just as, people that have kids, when it's the winter, you kind of listen to see, is school closed? Mm-hmm. When there's inclement weather, if you're a bus rider, you should kind of pay attention. If it seems like it's bad outside for school or something else, you might want to check to see if it's bad out for the bus.
Yeah,
so if you're not standing at the bus stop and it's ice and snow on the ground, and you're like, how come it's been 4 hours and the bus hasn't showed up?
Right.
So I think it's just really important for riders to think about us just like they do other services.
Absolutely.
When there's bad weather.
Yeah, we are considered emergency vehicles, so there'll probably be never a time, I don't like to say never, but there'll probably be never a time that the buses aren't running. Now, they may be slowed down. Usually in bad weather, we go to what we call a stop and roll, because majority of our buses meet up at the same time, especially at Cornerstone. That's where the majority of buses gather. However, in the event of bad weather, of course, different streets, like I said, are, taken care of differently. So Cleveland Avenue may be clean, whereas 3rd Street Southeast may be covered in snow still because they weren't able to get over there. So this route may get there on time each lineup, where this route is 30 minutes behind. So we would put them on what we call a stop and roll, where they drop off and they just continue going. We let the passengers know, like, the bus is coming. It just may not be there at that time.
Right. So it's not the spoken hub.
Right.
It's more of you wait at the transit center maybe a little bit longer than normal.
Yes.
And I think that makes sense, especially because people can go in the transit center. Because I know another thing that we do during bad weather, especially cold weather, we leave the transit centers open longer.
I was going to talk about that too. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so that way people can go inside.
Yeah, they generally open up, I think about the time when the buses start running. They open up so that people can go in and stand in and be warm waiting on the buses versus standing outside. We also send, since Maslin has been under construction for some time, we'll send a couple warming buses where we let the buses run with the heat on, so passengers can wait on there when they're waiting on their buses to come in and out of the terminal.
So there's all kinds of events that happen, especially like I know Christmas time or during the summer, there's parades and things like that. Like, how do you guys, one, do you guys find out in advance about those? And if two, how do you do it? And then how do you plan detours for that?
So for the most part, we do get a heads up on like major events. We try to stay on top of those things. Most of them are annual. So like what we do this year, we'll do next year and so on and so on. However, we are an event that they do road work, because if you've been around, even Stark County, there's just been a lot of road work as of recent.
Yeah.
And we are part of an email list. So they'll email us letting know what's going to be closed or blocked off, or they do have the number to call in where they be like, hey, this is the water department. We're going to be shutting off such and such street for this amount of time. And again, we just try to get maybe a road supervisor out there to double check the area and get a proper detour, so we aren't missing as many stops, to try to be as effective as we can.
Yeah, I seen that they were recently working on one of the streets by SARTA, and I should have actually looked at my email because I rode around in circles trying to get around that.
Yes,
I actually had to end up calling my boss, Jack, and having him direct me, and I was literally going a block away, and this is a true story. Gosh. And I was riding around in circles. But I finally made it. I need to read my emails better.
Yeah, them road closures that have you all messed up.
Whew.
And I think that one of the things that I think that riders really appreciate, especially with being able to put it in the Avail system, like I know, like we know First Friday. So we know First Fridays are coming up. Those detours are probably the same every single time for First Friday. So riders kind of know to look out for those. So I think that anytime there's any kind of parade, event on any route for a bus, people should just look on our website to see, because there's probably going to be a detour, because we're not going to be able to get our buses through probably a little bit before and a little bit after the event, because people have to dissipate. I think that one of the things that's really helpful, especially from the customer service department, is the system that we've worked out to be able to get the text messages out, because everybody doesn't look at the website. A lot of people use their phones, and then being able to have it on social media, because everybody gets all their news from social media now.
Absolutely.
So I think that's something that I think has been really helpful for people. So I know you said with the Proline buses, we try to really make sure that we keep the people moving. How do you do that? So if I'm, the Proline bus breaks down and you have 12 people you're supposed to pick up, like what's the process you guys use if that bus is going to be down for 3 hours to make sure that the 12 people that haven't gotten picked up actually don't miss all their appointments?
So it's a few different things that we try to keep in mind. Safety is one thing, and also we got to try to keep the buses moving. So in the event that, let's just say we do have a bus that break down and we can't get it started, it has to be towed and everything, we would contact maintenance. They would get us another bus. We would get somebody, what we call sitting protection, which is where they're there for anything we need them to do to help out. They would take that bus out to that location, switch out with that driver. And of course, that's going to take, some time depending on where they're at. So we would look down later in their manifest. Let's just say they got a couple people on board. We wouldn't be able to do anything with those 2 people on board, So unfortunately, hopefully they're not too late to where they need to go.
Right.
But the people later on down will try to move around to other people who are already out that may be in that vicinity anyway, or may have to send somebody out that was also sitting protection to go pick a person or 2 up, just to keep things rolling, to try to keep those people on time getting to their appointments and wherever they need to be.
Okay. I think that's good to know as it's a rider that we have backup plans. So it's not like if the bus fails, that, guess what? I'm about to miss my doctor's appointment.
Right.
So has there been, just in looking at detours and things like that, as you've been doing them for a while, anything surprising, like a detour that was hard to figure out? Like, I'm not sure how we're going to do this. And the reason I'm asking that is because our buses go on streets that are easy for buses to go on. Right. So when there's construction on these streets that are easier for buses to go on, is it hard to figure out other streets for them to go on? Like, you talked about the 2 cars parked on both sides, or are detours easy to plan? I'm not really sure.
No, they're not always easy to plan. Like you said, we go everywhere. So, a lot of streets are one way, or like you said, cars parked on both sides. So you have to take all that into account and try to find the safest route, because, a lot of our buses are 40 foot. So trying to swing that thing in a small street, it won't work. So we try to keep all that in account, try not to miss as many stops as we can. That way we keep the efficiency of the passengers being able to catch the bus and not to have to walk too far. but sometimes that's out of our control. Sometimes we do have to miss certain areas strictly because there's just nothing we can do, especially with accidents. Like if it's an accident that's blocked off, there's nothing we can do. And a great example of that is the 102 is usually a lot of accidents out there on Tusk. So there was an accident right there on Perry and with that Lincoln Way or West Tusk out there by the Sheets, and it was blocked off. Like you could not go east of Perry. So we had to turn down Perry Drive, and we wanted to use 13th Street, which was a quick left, but it's a small road right there by the school. So we eventually had to go all the way down the Southway, which then ran into like another route. That's where the 113 goes. So we missed a chunk of West Tusk, which is probably a good 5-6 stops. But things like that are kind of out of our control, and we just have to apologize at that moment. But we generally have other buses coming, so it shouldn't be as long, but we do the best we can. We don't try to leave anybody stranded.
The one detour that I remember the most is last time there was an election, and all those vehicles and buses were by the Board of Elections, and we couldn't get a bus through. And so I feel like we had to be creative with that detour. Didn't we end up sending a road? Because we don't have dedicated buses to take people to the Board of Elections because we have a route that goes by there.
Right.
And I know that that's what we tell everybody when they call us. So I remember when you guys were like, hey, so we're not going to go to the Board of Elections. I said, what? We cannot go to the Board of Elections because I've told millions of people we have a bus that goes by here. And it just happened to be on the last day of early voting. So I know you guys kind of got creative. I think you guys like sent a road supervisor out to go by there because a smaller vehicle could get past rather than a big bus. So do you often have to come up with creative solutions like that to be able to make sure like prime places, like maybe like the Board of Elections or a Heinz or a factory where you know there are going to be people so we can pick them up even if the bus can't get through?
Yeah, we try to be as creative as we can. Like I said, we try not to leave anybody stranded. I do believe we sent a road supervisor over there at first, and then we sent a small EH van, one of the Proline buses, to kind of just stay in that vicinity where the bus could kind of bypass that area, the main bus, and then they would pull up over there by the Walmart, and then the bus would take them back there.
Oh, so like kind of drop it like a little shuttle?
Yeah, like a shuttle from back and forth. And that, that tends to work out. That way people aren't standing. They're getting actually door-to-door service, really. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming on today. I think you gave us some really amazing information. I don't think people really genuinely understand how much goes into planning something that's, like detours or bad weather. So I just want to tell you thank you so much for all the information. We absolutely love having you on.
I love being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Del. I mean, I think, like Nina said, a lot of good information. Hopefully, our listeners will be able to better plan if they're using our service or telling someone about what to do if things aren't going how they're supposed to go to make sure they can still get to where they need to go. So again, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
And you make sure you bring that smile back on the show again, okay?
I'll be back soon.
You come back again. All right, well, that's our show. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Next Stop.